Welcome to the Microsoft Security Insights Podcast with your hosts, Franklin Grimberg and Edward Walton, where we discuss Microsoft 365 security and Azure security news and products.
Recorded Wednesday, September 7th at 3 p.m. Mountain Time. Good evening, Frank, Kristina, and Gary. How are you doing today?
Hey there.
Doing good. How's it being back from vacation? Were you helicopter jumping, or what were you doing this time?
Well, it was more float plane flying in. We went to a remote fishing camp, which also included some duck hunting, and so that was quite the adventure. I've got some pictures if you want to see. I have a couple pictures I can bring up.
No way.
Yeah,
like
we were
the
in
whole ice drilling thing that you see in movies.
There's no, despite popular belief, it's not all ice up north here yet. It is still summer, so there was freshwater lakes that were fully open. Ice will be coming, but I was not up there during the ice. I've been ice fishing. It's fantastic. Do a lot of sitting around. This was more exciting. We're in like a little Zodiacs, like dinghies, and the fish were I've never caught anything that big in my life like that before. It was a fight, and my wife came with me, and we're like, get the net, just like holy. It was quite the thing.
And it was a lake. You were lake fishing, and it was that big.
It's called Great Slave Lake, and it's in the Northwest Territories. And I've never been that far north in Canada before. My wife's been to Alaska a few times, and I was blown away at the terrain and just the amount of water that's up there. Like, I know we have a ton of lakes, and I've been all over Canada, but I've never seen anything like that before. And you fly in to the nearby major city, and we took a 45-minute float plane ride in. Wow. And basically the whole week we're on little two-person Zodiacs, little like 9-horsepower motors, and it was just amazing. Yeah, actually the float plane on the way back couldn't take off. It had engine trouble, so they had to fly a mechanic out on a different plane to look at it. So we had 2 goes at trying to take off, and they couldn't get enough airspeed. And I'm happy he didn't try to force it. And so we had a third plane come in or a second plane come in and pick us up. Anyway, I've got pictures. You want to see pictures?
Yeah, because all I keep thinking about is I'm watching on Netflix The Alone. It's like Naked and Afraid, but people are clothed.
Yes.
And it's like the last man standing wins type of thing. And they're in British Columbia, so up in the lake area north of the US. And
yeah, exactly. That series was also partly filmed in the area that I was in. I found out. So Great Slave Lake was one of the areas on Alone. So I had no idea. Yeah, here, let me share this quick. Share.
We switched over to StreamYard, so we're still learning how to work it. So this will take 5 minutes.
Yeah. Okay, so it doesn't look like I'm sharing anything crazy here. Window.
You're way up there.
Just my chat with. Let's zoom in. So that's a picture.
No way. That looks fake.
I know, it does look fake. Ooh, I don't like that thing at the bottom there. That's not very nice. Should have used Image Viewer. I can't switch computers right before this call, sorry. So, and for anybody who cannot see this, I'll post some of the pictures on our Discord. Don't forget to join the Microsoft Security Insights Discord. But yeah, so that's me in front of the fire.
Our gardening channel has fallen off recently. So
well, now it's going to have to be a fishing channel because that's my new addiction. So yeah, there is a great shot of the Northern Lights, and I'm in front of the fire. I was managing the fire most of the week. That's usually what I do when I'm camping. I can't sit still. And there's our broken float plane being worked on. So we didn't end up taking that one, but we took a different one. And I'm just going to quickly stop sharing because I have a very private conversation behind this with good old Eric Snyder, who wants to come back on, Frank. Eric wants to come back on. I'll show the picture here one more time. Here we go. Window, Eric. All right, there's me and a fish. Biggest fish in my life right there.
Wow.
What is that?
That's a lake trout. We couldn't get the pike to bite, and the guides were able to get the pike to come out very late after dinner in very specific areas. So we just did lake trout. which was like they're monsters, like they're huge.
Did you bring any food or just rely on your skills?
We mostly did catch and release, but some days we did eat some of the trout for lunch or dinner. And then we also did some duck hunting, and I'm not going to show any of that in case people get upset at that, because there's pictures of dead ducks and guns and everything. So, but if you want to see that afterwards, I'll send it to you. But yeah, that was, and that's a shot of the sunset.
I thought you were playing that video game, duck hunting. Wasn't that a video game?
I love that video game. It's really easy when you get right up to the screen, you know?
So were you like camping in the woods, or are you going back to some fancy hotel at night?
They're canvas tents, so that shot you see is it shows kind of the lining of the canvas tent. So it's like a wood A-frame structure, and they just throw canvas over top. The bugs weren't bad, luckily, but it's not like sealed at the bottom. And there's a wood stove in each of the tents. So we had to like get that ready and make sure that kept my wife warm and got the embers going at night. So it was roughing it. It was pretty, like, I've been to some camping trips. And like my wife and I, we were big summer camp kids growing up, and we've done a bunch of camping. But this was definitely roughing it. It was. I won't get into the waste management aspect of the trip, but let's just say it's different than what you're used to. And no, it's not burying it. And yeah, just getting out there, like the dock that you see, like that's just like wood. That's just trees that they've lashed together, basically. Like it's something else. I've never been up there like that before. It was pretty cool. So
I don't even know where you would begin to plan a trip that was like this.
Yeah, I know it. The organizer, it was a Afghanistan war vet, and my friend, he lost both of his legs in Afghanistan to an IED, and so he knows the owner, and he's been up there before. And this is his second time going. He invited my wife and I, and we joined him and his wife and a couple friends. And basically, the whole camp is primarily there to help war vets come up and get away from everything and get some great fishing in. And so he started that, and I think it was 2014, and it started off with just a plot of land. I think his first camp got burned down by the locals. They didn't like him, but he's made amends, and he's got a lease on a new island, part of the island there, and he's slowly been building it up and expanding the property. There's electric fence around the small little area, so at night the bears don't come in if they wanted to poke and prod. And yeah, it's not glamping, it's roughing it for sure. You're not sleeping on the ground. It's cots on a wood structure on the ground, but it's still roughing it. And yeah, we got the nicest part was, like, we paid to go, obviously, and the nicest part was the food and the dishes are all just taken care of. Like, they'd clean the fish, clean the birds, or if we didn't have anything wild to eat that day, they had food, so we didn't have to worry about any of that. So it's basically just show up and bring your gear and enjoy the fact that everything smells like fish and smoke when you leave, because it does. Yeah. so yeah, it was a great time. Oh, Kristina, I hope that wasn't expensive. That wasn't a Microsoft Crystal, was it? No. Okay, good.
About that.
That's okay.
You moved that cord.
Yeah, no big deal. So I'll finish by just saying I'll post some pictures on our Discord. Everyone listening, thank you for the support as usual. I'll post some pictures that are clean for everybody. No hunting pics. And yeah, if you want any more information, or you want to go, or think somebody in your group of friends or your larger network would be interested in going up, I'd be happy to refer you and give you more information.
Very cool.
Well, I'll tell you what, the rest of the three of us aren't even going to talk about what we did this past week, because we can't even compare to what Brody did. So Gary, would you like to do the introductions for tonight?
Well, sure. Would you like to start with myself or introduce our guest?
Well, people know you already, Gary. You're like a returning guest, returning co-host. So you're you're a co-host tonight. You're not the guest.
I'm official. All right. Well, tonight we are honored to have Kristina Quick join us, and she's going to talk about not just the private preview program, but the private community program, which used to be private preview, but has been expanded to include much, much more. For those who don't know, I was very involved with this program before I joined Microsoft. Now I'm still involved, but not as much because I get to see everything beforehand anyway. Yeah.
Awesome. Thanks, Gary. Sounds like a pretty good introduction.
Anything you want to add, Kristina?
Sure, why not? So just a little background on me and how I ended up maybe doing what I do. So I've been a security technology professional for 20 years. I started in industry IT at a large, S500 organization. And then I moved to Microsoft Field and then to Microsoft Engineering. So a lot of what we've built when it comes to the private community, what we try to get input on, and the timing with which we try to get that input is largely based on my own history and frustration of, being a Microsoft customer and a field person that works here. So I'm excited to talk about it today and kind of also hear from you guys, because I know Gary was in our program. I know Frank's been in our program before, so obviously excited to hear your thoughts as well.
Cool. I'm surprised you've had any frustration with Microsoft products or technology over the years. I've never had a single thing.
Did I say that out loud?
No.
I don't think I meant that.
No, I'm just joking. If it wasn't for Microsoft, I wouldn't have a career, right? Either fixing stuff or implementing it now, and now championing it or being an advocate for it because I truly believe in it. So yeah, that's a great point, Kristina.
So what are we talking about here? Let's not make the assumption that people know what we're discussing here. So what is the private preview, the private community, or what is it called now?
Yeah, well, it's private community. There's been an evolution, and now community, both public and private, have come under the same umbrella. But really today we're focused on private community, which is the base requirement is you have to have a non-disclosure with Microsoft because we are sharing everything behind the curtain, so to speak. And really the goal of private community is to bring our users, and that can be a customer, partner, Microsoft Field employee, into our development lifecycle. So most feedback that we get at Microsoft is once our products go live, people tell us what new features they want to see or what went wrong or what they want to work differently. And so we take all that input, we synthesize it, and we start to build a plan, right? And we start aligning our resources to the next sprint. But when we get there, how do we make sure that that's still the highest priority and that we not only build the right feature, but we design it the right way, that it has the right capabilities, and that it truly works in other environments? And so that's really where private community comes in. We offer engagements, what we call engagements, out to that audience and say, hey, do you want to influence the way this feature is going to work? Join this call or join this design exercise or try to execute the bits and bytes of this code in your environment and let us know how it works for you. And that's really what private community is.
So people sign up for this and then they get a Teams invite, or how does somebody get involved? I don't know.
Yeah, so everybody comes through the same front door, regardless of what role you play in this. And so that's AKA/PRSecCom. We used to call it private security community, and people were like, no, that's way too long to type into a browser. So PRSecCom is what it became. And if you go there, essentially what we have you do is fill out a profile. So we need to make sure that we kind of understand your background, where you're at with our products, what company you come from, the size of company you come from. And that really helps us, because if we're ever in a case where we want to target a particular audience or get feedback from just partners maybe, or just small customers maybe, then we can kind of use that profile data to target folks. And then there are some key things that are also required on that form. One is a privacy sign off. This is what allows us to have a two-way dialogue with you. And then the second is we validate that you have a non-disclosure agreement with Microsoft. In most cases, your company will already have an NDA with us, and that's just kind of a validation that we do in the background before we let you into our environment. And environment is a private Teams community. So we have a private Teams channel. It has various channels depending on the products you care about, and you can turn on or off notifications based on what you're interested in. And that's where the opportunities will be presented to you to participate in.
Awesome. Just fill out the form. Easy.
Hey. Yeah. Just fill out the form, come join us. You'll hear about our NDA roadmap. You'll be able to say, yes, I agree with that, or no, I don't. You'll tell us about things that are missing and what you need to see, or what maybe customers you support are telling you that they need to see. And it's a really great way to be your customer's advocate. I mean, a customer can go in there and be their own advocate, but maybe you're a consultant of some type. And it's a good way for you to consolidate that feedback and make sure that you're truly being an advocate for your customer to Microsoft.
So is this for partners or customers and partners or whoever?
Yeah, going back to my initial statement of kind of my career background, it's for all of the above, and it was designed that way on purpose, right? So if you're a customer, we absolutely want your feedback. If you're a partner who's supporting multiple customers, by golly, we surely want your feedback, because now you have the feedback of many. And that's the same for a Microsoft field employee or any consultant that might be out there working with customers. As long as we have that NDA,
and you can earn stickers too.
Stickers. Love it.
That's the best part.
Well, yeah.
Real stickers, not just stickers we put on LinkedIn, but real.
Nope, these are actual real stickers.
Wow. Amazing. Well, I just think, again, talking about your experiences, Kristina, and where you came from, and I also came from supporting Microsoft technology most of my career, and as well as coming from a partner, and having a channel direct to Microsoft in order to actually express your thoughts, feelings on directions of products, pain points, ideas to improve, etc. That whole agile development methodology where we're taking feedback from the field and then we're applying that, and we're not just, this is version 5 because it's what we came up with in a meeting one day, and we're executing version 5 over the next 2 years, and talk to us when it's version 6. I just think that's such a departure from the Microsoft of old and technology companies of old, and it really just that relationship management between the end users, whether it be an SMB, whether it be a partner or an enterprise, and in this case, Microsoft, is just an outstanding way to develop products and features moving forward. So hats off to you and the whole team for managing that.
Thank you. It's kind of like one of those things that you didn't know was a passion until like all these pieces just started to fit together, and you said, oh, that's why my career was the way it was. And now I can take all that and kind of put it together.
In addition, we use these channels to do the roadmap sessions. So at least on a Sentinel team, we can show what we're working on that's not even private preview yet. Just something for people to be prepared to get into private preview.
I can't tell you how many times I'm on a call with a customer and a thought comes up like, oh, that's a good idea. X solution doesn't do that yet. I wonder if it's on the roadmap. And yeah, if it's not in private preview or it's not immediately coming out and it's on the roadmap, and the customer's like, oh, great. Like even if it's not a fixed time yet, it's Q4 sometime, but it's being worked on or being thought about, or it's going to happen. It puts a lot of people's minds at ease that it's already been considered and we're driving towards that, right? So many calls. Doesn't matter what the solution is. Oh, MDI should be more reactive automatically, or MDE should be able to scan devices across your network, and like these things eventually come out and they're on the roadmap, and because of that NDA and that contractual relationship you have, you can express those, right, and give the customer a little sneak peek, or the partner a little sneak peek in terms of what's coming. It just is a fantastic way to put people's minds at ease about product evolution, solution evolution.
Yeah, absolutely. I think bringing that experience to the forefront in engineering is always fantastic. I know being in the field or being a Microsoft customer, oftentimes our internal clients would request things of the IT organization, right? And if you didn't have a solution that met that need, well, then you were going to look at other solutions. So why not instead give that architect the heads up and ability to influence where we're going right there when we have resources and funding allocated to it? That way we can build it the way that people are telling us they need it real time.
Right, and we have to be like that. It has to.
Yeah.
It can't just be long-term versioning. It's got to be short-term feedback-driven sprints. To your point, right? I don't have an engineering background. I thought I was going to be an engineer at one point to code video games, but that didn't really pan out. And so, just understanding this modern way of developing solutions products through the agile mindset and not the old classic kind of waterfall method was something I learned when joining Microsoft. And I just think it's inspiring that you're just taking like real raw feedback, whether it's polite or not, and then executing on it and improving from there. Like it's just next level. It's really cool.
So out of the product teams, which one, when you're getting this feedback and working, which is your favorite product team to work with?
Oh, that's terrible, Frank. Why would you ever ask me that?
Of course it's Sentinel.
Oh my
Love
goodness.
Come on, Kristina. No one listens to this. Like we don't have any listeners or nothing. Like this is just a mom and pop operation. You can tell us what you really feel.
So which cloud is your favorite?
No matter what I say, it's a lose-lose.
Come on, you got an opinion. It's okay. You can
no, I would plead the fifth, but at the same time, we have, the products that were my guinea pigs for this program, which were Sentinel and what's now Defender for Cloud. They have a special place in my heart. Let's call it that, because they were the ones when we had this idea, or collectively us in engineering had this idea, that we're willing to raise their hand and say, sure, we'll give it a go and try to do things differently and see how it works. And they are just such a big influence over how we've shaped this program, because like you said, it started with private previews, and then we realized, gosh, there's a lot that can go wrong before you have a private preview ready. Wouldn't it be nice for those highly complex features or ones that required a lot of integration for us to just kind of get some input early on? And that became the birth of, the surveys, which are a super easy way for people to provide input, or a design exercise, or learning sessions where we just want to hear how people use our feature before we go and change it, right? So I think that, those two products have a special place in my heart because they help shape the program and make it what it is today.
I've heard of them. They're important products. Yeah.
They're kind of the big deal in my world.
Big deal.
So what I don't think people realize is when I first started working with Sentinel, I compared it to Notepad from the number of features, right? Compared to today, it's like Word. When you look at the number of features that it has grown over that short period of time, and a lot of critical features within Sentinel. I think that some that people aren't even using yet, or understand the importance of them in the future. So I think that I don't know if those features came from the community or just the internal team, but I really think that because, like I said, I as a writer, I can only write about what's in the product currently, so I kind of shield myself from knowing what's coming in the future on purpose. But no, I mean, it's been an incredible, if you think about the short period of time that it's been, the amount of feature and functionality put into Sentinel has been incredible. Now, I've got a question. The next question I have for you. The portal, the bringing together the products under the Defender portal. Tell us about that process of managing the community through that.
Great question.
Oh gosh. Well,
Which we love, by the way. We love the consolidation efforts that are going on. So to all the customers I work with, by the way. So sorry, Kristina, I just want to say it's been extremely well received. And every day more consolidation happens on those fronts, the more people are further excited about the solution stack. So yeah, go ahead. Sorry to interrupt.
Yeah, I'll preface this by saying I don't think we're at the perfect place yet.
Agreed.
But I started this program about 3.5 years ago, and I will say my first event that I ever attended as an employee in engineering, I kept hearing the same feedback come up in all the sessions, was a lot about, hey, we need a single pane of glass. And what is Sentinel? Is it another pane of glass? And hey, how come I have all these other portals over here? So I think that we've been very fortunate to always have an engineering team that was very keen on listening to the feedback and making changes. And it took a lot of top-down push and drive to bring that all together. But I'm happy to say we made a lot of progress. I'm happy to say we took a lot of input during that time. And, while maybe we're not there yet, I think that we've grown by leaps and bounds. And yeah, a lot of that did come through the program. Gary was probably a part of the program during a lot of that. And that's actually sometimes a struggle for people because, like you said, our products are growing so quickly. There's so many features coming in that it's kind of overwhelming to keep track of them. Even from our perspective, we're internal and we're working on all of these, but somebody in our community to keep track of all of them. And that's why we started a weekly digest that we send out now. But I'm curious, Gary, before the weekly digest, how did you keep track of all this? And how overwhelming was it for you being someone trying to digest some of this information?
It was pretty overwhelming, but actually, I was talking Ashley Martin this morning about this. I would have Teams for my work open on my desktop. Then I would have the Teams for the private preview open as a browser window. So I could still see, whenever something popped up, it would give me my little notification, and then I would see what was going on.
Yeah, I think a lot of people use that mechanism so they can kind of see both teams' environments at the same time and keep track. We've tried to make it better, even just more, anything we can do to make the information more digestible and let people know how they can get involved without overwhelming them is what we try to do. But we're not there either. We're not quite there yet either.
Right.
I think the communication's been phenomenal lately with just keeping on track. As a consultant, I'm heads down working with customers consistently, and I don't have a handle on where everything is at in terms of timing, in terms of preview, in terms of road mapping. And there are moments where it's like, oh, I need to find that out right now. And it's getting easier and easier to perform that task and to advise our customers in terms of where we're going in the direction. So yeah, it's been fantastic lately.
Awesome.
I have a question from Rod Trent here. He emailed me this. So
Is he on vacation?
why is Sentinel not named Microsoft Defender for Sentinel instead of just Microsoft Sentinel?
Great question.
I'm gonna see if Gary,
I had enough problems with it being called from Azure Sentinel to Microsoft Sentinel.
All right. So how did you handle so more seriously, how did you handle the product name changes? I mean, how was that process? Was that fun for you, or?
Oh, it's a ton of fun. I love it when marketing changes the names on us, and then we have to go redo our database and our communications, our automations. It's actually work that I didn't know I wanted.
Right. And then everybody has their own interpretation on what the new acronym should be. And so now you have several different iterations of acronyms for the same thing. And it's not confusing at all. It's never confusing.
No, and they don't want you to actually use the acronym. So
Of course.
I get in trouble for using it, but sometimes I just sneak one in because Microsoft Defender for Cloud is not always fitting in my letter count or my char count that I may have for something.
So that's why they keep changing the names. We get used to the acronym, and then they don't want us using acronyms, so you change the name.
They say, if you're going to use that acronym, I'm going to change the name on you, and then it's done.
I was trying to
we'll do it again in 3 years, right?
Yeah. Out of the products, which one do you think is the most misunderstood, or when you're dealing with the community, we're not being shown enough love in the community?
So actually we have some new personas that we need that are not getting enough love in the community. And some of them are related to things that are not announced yet, so I won't talk about that. But for instance, we have a lot of Azure diehards in our community, like Microsoft, Azure, people who live and breathe this stuff. But what we also want are those multi-cloud people, the people who are also running environments with AWS and Google, because we are releasing a lot of multi-cloud capabilities, and we want people who know and live in an environment where you're managing multiple clouds, so that they can give us feedback on what they need and where they want to see our products go and how those features work. And actually, this is a shout out to anybody listening who fits that persona. We want you desperately. So we don't care if you prefer AWS. If you're using multi-clouds, come join us. We want to hear your perspective.
Which is fair, because that's everybody these days. There's no one company or organization, at least at the enterprise level that we deal with, that's on one cloud, right? It's maybe more in the SMB space. Everyone's across everything. It's just different percentages depending on your workloads and requirements.
It should be. I think it also kind of matters how the company is structured. Like, did those architects or security operators, are they competitive within the company? Are they the same person within the company? Maybe someone has a preference for one cloud over the other, so they don't want to make one product better. I don't know, but that's just hypothesis in my head of why we can't find too many of those folks. But we're going to make a hard push this year. We really want that perspective and input to be involved in our development lifecycle. And so if it's not Azure, it's
I know that's contrary to what we've been saying, but great comment in the chat. And we are the Microsoft Security Insights podcast, but you bring up a good point, right? Again, that's the world we live in. We need diverse perspectives from organizations with diverse needs and diverse cloud usages. So that's great that you do that.
Well, most of our products, security products, work throughout the different clouds anyway.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. Great point.
And we are investing a lot in that space in the coming year, and we already have. So we want to get people's input as we make those investments. We want to make them right. So yeah.
It's a huge differentiator for Microsoft. I mean, just Defender for Cloud on its own. I don't know. I've been asking folks who've come on this podcast if other major cloud providers have that type of cross-platform visibility and management and security aspect, and I haven't really heard of anything out there yet that compares to some of the capabilities that we have. So it's quite unique. It's quite unique that we can do that.
Absolutely.
So one of the
Gary?
things that
Yeah.
Go ahead. No, Kristina.
I was going to say, we didn't talk about, you showed the stickers, but we should talk a little bit about badging in the program.
Please.
Because that's pretty cool. One of the things that we kind of discovered a year or so into this program is that people contribute, but then everything they do with us is under NDA. So it's not like they can go out and tout about what they did with us, right? They can't talk to other people about it. That, you know, it's all restricted under that NDA umbrella. And so we introduced a program called digital badging. We try to gamify a little bit the feedback. We have a leaderboard. It's really an outward recognition for what people do under NDA with us that they can't otherwise talk about. So people have the ability to earn different levels, work their way up, and earn all the different badges. And it's just it's a win-win, right? We get tons of feedback. We get people providing more input and sharing more insight with us. And then we also get a way to kind of outwardly recognize people, send them thank you cards and stickers, and hopefully one day swag like the security blanket you mentioned earlier, Frank.
Yes, that's got to come back. That's got to come back. I never got one. I want one. I love how you're gamifying that whole aspect. Someone who's a gamer and a competitive person, seeing your name on a leaderboard pushes you, right? It pushes certain individual types. And even if it's not, you're trying to get to the top, but you can see progress you've made. Like I just like the MS Learn site for that reason, because you're acquiring experience points, right? And you're gaining on a point system. And so the same gamification that you're using is a great way to get people engaged.
The Learn site, when you get up to a certain level, like your next level, you have to have 1 million points to move to the next level. It's like, come on, that's not motivating there for me to try to go out and get the next million.
Frank,
points.
we're all not level 99 like you, okay? So it's a little different for most of us. But yeah, at one point, Microsoft's just going to have to release a new product in order for you to actually educate yourself up into the new level. I'm sure that's going to happen.
So what is one feature that was not on the roadmap that you just looked at and said, that's the most obvious thing? How did we not think of that before?
Oh gosh, there's sometimes a number of those. I remember when we introduced Secure Score in Defender for Cloud, and there was no way to export a report about it to like share with leadership. And I thought, well, that's silly. That's the first thing that someone's going to ask you when you walk into a meeting and you tell them what your secure score is, right? Is, oh, I want to see the output, and you're not going to show them the portal. So that's just a simple example. But gosh, everything that comes to mind is stuff that's under NDA. You should have told me that question ahead of time so that I could think of one that's already public. Stay tuned for the Ignite announcements in a month. You're going to see a lot of cool stuff.
Love it.
Yeah, no, as a developer background, I always hate walking in doing review sessions. They say, hey, why don't you do that? It's like, it's the simplest thing. It's like, why didn't I think of that? But you're so deep in the product, you're not seeing it from that perspective, so that's what's nice about getting those reviews and the community feedback and so on.
Yeah, I think sometimes the greatest success stories for our team is when we decide to nix a plan. Like, hey, that is going to bomb if we release it. We just got a ton of feedback during that design exercise or preview or whatever it was. Like, we need to go back to the drawing board. And sometimes those are the best success stories, right?
Good call. Yeah, good call. Don't want to push something out if it's not going to deliver, right? And that takes.
Someone say Windows Phone. What was that?
Hey, that's a great product.
I always
that
thought
was too
Microsoft was
easy.
going to
That
buy
was too easy.
BlackBerry. I thought they were going to get BlackBerry and they were going to be the third player and they were going to crush it, and it never happened. That was
No,
always my.
I liked Windows Phone, but that just
Oh, yeah.
shows you something called network effects, and they didn't have network effects, and where Windows does, and that's why there's the big issue with that phone.
Well, Brad Smith's talked about that a few times. He thinks if I'm verbatim, if Microsoft wasn't tied up in the antitrust litigation with Europe at the time when the phone wars were really taking off, he thinks maybe they could have been a bigger player. The organization was very locked in on that aspect, right? So I was honestly surprised when it didn't last long term. But what are you gonna do?
Somebody
How
got
many-
Windows running on a Surface Duo phone.
I saw that. Yeah, I mean you can get
So-
skins on Android phones that mimic a Windows Phone look. Yeah.
How many people give you recommendations for pricing and licensing?
You said the L word. Once an episode, Frank drops the L word. Yeah, go ahead, Kristina. This is gonna be a good one. Yeah.
So it's interesting. So our program really is focused around products that are already GA that we are introducing new features to. However, what you're talking about is when a product's in incubation and hasn't been released yet. So we get a taste of that. We support incubation products, and we make them available to our community to provide input to, but we don't drive those sessions, right? It's not led through our program. But we do get feedback from customers, I will say that. We get a lot of unsolicited feedback about it during the incubation phase, and then there's an actual phase where finance and marketing and everybody comes together and officially gains feedback from those design partners during that phase. But I will say, thankfully, I have only gotten the summaries of those conversations. I've not had to be in those conversations.
So now on a more serious note, because a lot of people have been in IT for a while. They were license based versus consumption based, and a lot of organizations have a difficult time understanding and transitioning to consumption based scenarios. Where do you feel that the community is now on consumption based versus license based, or is that something you just don't see?
I think that people in Gary's role probably get more of those conversations. Gary is on a peer team that's helping customers deploy, and so clearly the licensing conversation is coming up a lot. In our community, we're usually focused. We frame all our conversations around new capabilities coming out. If it's feedback on something existing, our members kind of chat with each other about it, and there are peer chat channels where people can help each other, and we'll answer questions and stuff. But we really try to focus our feedback on what's critical at that time, which is making sure we get the development right. But Gary, I'll let Gary answer that. When you're deploying customers, how often does that come up?
Pretty much anytime the customer has had an on-premises system.
Yeah, makes sense.
So let's take a look at one of the more complex situations or features that has come out recently, and talk about how the community, how you presented that to community, and the entire process of that, and so on, which are the ASIM parsers. I don't know if you're familiar with them.
No,
Really?
I'm not familiar with that.
Okay.
Sorry, I run a team. We have over 100 engagements at any given time. I could look it up.
So when you deal with, that's one of the more, I think, complex things for people to be dealing with in Sentinel now. So how do you manage putting something out that's complex? I mean, if you add a simple feature, look, here's this new entity, this new thing, whatever. There's simple things that, well, obviously you still have to develop it, but simple from the user perspective. But then there's things that are more complex from the user perspective. to integrate into their process flow. So how do you deal with that? Is there a difference in dealing with that, or is it more education during the process of introducing the feature? Is there anything more specific about that?
So usually when capabilities are in private preview, there's no charge to folks for maybe the increase in usage in their environment. But we are looking at telemetry in the back end. We're trying to see impacts. We're asking questions around impact. And so that kind of helps with the pricing conversation.
Don't worry about pricing. I'm just talking about getting them to use it, for them to understand how to utilize it in their environment. We can drop pricing now. So.
Oh, okay. Got it. Just more complex features in general. So we do a couple different things. So typically, if we have a more complex feature coming out, we will kick off that engagement with a live call with the engineer who is running it. So it'll be dev team, it'll be the feature owner. They're going to walk through, they're going to answer questions and kind of explain what it's going to look like. And that session is recorded so that anybody could go back and reference it later, or maybe you couldn't make it to it. And so that's just a really good way to kind of answer a lot of questions that are inevitably going to come up from day one.
Smart.
And then every capability that comes through our program also has what we call internally a scope document, and we share that with participants. So it talks through, what is this feature, why, what are the use cases for it, what are the prerequisites for this to work in their environment, and then what are the step-by-step instructions. And this is actually really great for us also because it is lead into our documentation. So if people start running into the same question or the same blockers, they're going through kind of our draft documentation, we know that when we release that feature public, that we need to be really explicit in that part of the instructions for our documentation. So that's typically how we do it. And then within the team's environment, people can ask questions, and our team is responding real time or via chat in Teams. So they can tag that feature PM that just gave them the demo. They can tag them in Teams and say, hey, can you clarify that point? Because I'm stuck on X. And maybe we answer it, but maybe another member already made it past that step. And so another member is answering that question. It really is meant to be like this place where we all come together as community and help each other and mold our products together.
One of the newer features, I'm just looking, it has 141 comments on it. So there's a lot of back and forth discussion on that one.
Nice.
Yeah, it can
It
happen.
seems like a no-brainer to want to be a part of this. Like I honestly feel that way. If you're listening out here, partners, organizations, anyone, this seems exactly what you want to be a part of in terms of being able to provide feedback for what's coming up, but also build a community, build some connections, learn. It just seems like a great program overall.
Well, thanks. Yeah, we think so. We love it. We think it's really cool.
Yeah. It wasn't like that back in the day, right? Microsoft wasn't like that back in the day. It was version 5. I'll see you in a couple of years. I think it brought that.
That's the thing when I deal with. That's what. Yeah, Yammer. I won't even go down.
I love Yammer.
But what a lot of people don't realize is that, hey, remember the 3-year software cycles, right? Where you get the new product out every 3 years or whatever. And it's like, so when I hear people say going in a portal and they're doing training, it's like, oh, look, this changed or whatever. It's like, yeah, would you really want to wait 3 years for that to actually hit the street? So yeah, I mean, I think the pace is awesome. Yes, training material does fall behind, but the teams aren't going to wait for the training material. But Docs is really solid, from a material standpoint. So it sounds like that's part of the Docs I didn't know that part of the Docs process was during this in the preview community. So that's very cool.
Yeah, that's smart. That's definitely smart. taking the feedback, like to your point, Kristina, if there's a pain point, it's like, oh, we didn't cover that, right? Let's add it in. And then before it actually gets released, maybe it's in public preview or whatever, you've already got it covered off. It's a very smart way of managing that.
Yeah, we found out we actually have a lot of unintended stakeholders sort of for our program internally, like our support teams. Our support teams get a chance to try the features before they go public, and then inevitably they get calls about them, right? So there's in the docs team, as we just mentioned, the docs gets a precursor to the formal documentation that they have to write. So then we can also give them that along with the feedback so they can make it better when they write the final version. So there's a lot of great use cases when you start to bring all these things under the same umbrella. You start to begin to see ways in which you can just help each other get better. And that's ultimately what we all want, right? We all want everybody to be more secure. If we can all come together and work on it together, then it's a win-win.
Yeah, absolutely. Takes a village, security especially.
We got a few questions here. Gary, when is your next book coming out?
I don't think I'm going to write another one.
Oh, really?
It is too much of a pain trying to keep up with everything. And then, like Frank and I were talking about earlier, trying to remember what is in preview and what's not, so you can actually write about it. It's kind of hard.
And then it's out of date as soon as you release it, right, Gary? Because of this agile development
Microsoft
methodology.
changes the names of everything.
Yeah.
So, Kristina, so do you like the name Purview?
Oh.
I like the name. Oh, I remember the conversations on this. I have too much knowledge and background. Yes, I think it's a great name.
I've come around because I'm actually glad that they changed it from just being called compliance. I'm glad they gave it a product name. And also people get confused when you talk about compliance within, let's say, Defender for cloud, right? Versus the
regulatory
data side
compliance. Yeah.
Right.
Exactly.
So I'm glad that they actually gave it a name.
I will say
Too bad it sounds like cat food, but that's okay.
I will say I have a new appreciation for marketing's job of trying to find a name, market that name, put a brand to that name. It's when you see how the sausage is made and you see the analysis paralysis that goes on to try to get it right, you realize, okay, I'm not going to say anything bad because I know that they thought about a lot of different things and landed at that. And it wasn't easy. And all these various aspects that you would never think would go into it, totally do. So
we'll just call everything Defender, and now the problem's solved.
Oh, that was my joke. I was going to say, I wonder how far down the list Defender for compliance was. Yeah.
Brody, earlier you said something like, I don't know why anybody would not join this. And I was thinking, it actually, in my perspective, kind of takes like this needle in a haystack, because an average person who just decides to join this community is going to get very overwhelmed and maybe back out pretty quickly. It has to be a person who really knows these products, really wants to be on the forefront, and is willing to give input.
Fair.
And
which is a prerequisite in your request, right? You need, you can join, but we need you to be in a working relationship with us. It's not a one-way thing.
Yeah, because we have a public community, by the way, and I know you guys did a session on that a few weeks ago, so everyone should go watch. And public community is a great place when you don't want to be proactive and you just want to digest information. But private community is really a place where you have to invest some time to get a result, right? But it's really cool when you come in and you're a part of a design exercise or a private preview and you give feedback, and then it's there, it makes it into the product. And when your peers see it, you could say, I gave that feedback to make it work that way. You wouldn't have liked it the other way. You should have seen what they did, So that's
thank you for that distinction. That's important to know. Yeah, I use the public community for that myself as a professional. I know other professionals who do that, but yeah, it's private community. It's a two-way relationship. We need both feedback coming from the other side as well. So that's a great distinction. Thanks, Kristina.
All right, we're running up against time. Is there any final comments here?
Well, from me, it really is, hey, I'm looking for more of those needle in a haystack people, more of those people who are willing to dedicate time and really influence our products. We think those people are pretty special, and we want to get to know them, especially if they are running multi-cloud in their environment, because we want to make a lot of investments there, and we want to get people's feedback.
Awesome. Gary, what about yourself?
I'll just say it is a great program, and I really think my involvement in it helped me get my job here at Microsoft. So it's definitely well worth it. And I did see a couple of features or changes that I requested that actually made it into the product.
There you go. Can we get that, Kristina? Every time a new feature comes in, can we have, etched in the code? Gary suggested this. Just another way of giving appreciation back to the community.
Well, let's just rename it to Microsoft Gary. We had Bob. Why not Gary?
Why not
Gary.
just market it as Gary from the beginning? Yeah.
Perfect.
Makes sense. Bunch of geniuses on this call today. It's fantastic.
All right, Brody. Until next week.
Until next week, thanks, Kristina. Thanks, Gary. Thanks, listeners and watchers and viewers. We really appreciate it. Take care.
Bye.
And join the private preview program.
That's right.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Oh, by the way, Frank, we need to get like an ending audio thing for our podcast.